We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. It is November 30th, 5 a.m. I just got off work. Wasn't scheduled today, but me and Sammy had went on a trip. We went back to Point Pleasant. So I was scheduled basically 32 hours, and I figured I'd go in on my day off and hopefully get a 40 hours. I'm going to see if I can work Wednesday and get overtime, just to kind of make back up financially for our trip. I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. I'm not too big on holidays, and I don't mind covering stuff conspiracy or paranormal related on the channel for certain holidays, but I don't really think there's much conspiracy or paranormal stuff or anything like that related to Thanksgiving that I could particularly think of, so I didn't have a special episode planned. That and Thanksgiving's my birthday. We didn't really do anything Thanksgiving. I'm pretty estranged from my family, so well, not all of them, you know. I got a younger brother and my oldest brother who I'm pretty cool with, but honestly, man, my last Thanksgiving was just kind of I actually didn't mind it. I had a decent time. My wife, she kept coming up to me like, "Man, it's awkward, and I'm like, "Dude, you're making it awkward by thinking it's awkward." I was like, if everyone else wants to act all awkward around us, that's cool. That's on them. I'm going to smile and have a good time, you know. I smile going in and I smile coming out. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I've had people try to be awkward around me, and it's like, I'm just going to laugh in your face. Like, I've had bosses try to be awkward around me. I've just had people try to be awkward around me in general, and it's like, you're not going to cause me to be awkward. I'm just going to laugh in your face and enjoy myself, you know. But yeah, it was weird. Like I brought over a friend who at the time, like, he had been in prison for like 10 years, and my mom, she had always said, you know, like, hey, if you have someone who wants to come to Thanksgiving with you, they're always welcome. And we've had family members bring friends and stuff like that with them. Like, it's never been a problem. So I just assumed like that rule was still applied. And we had gotten a message from, it was my mom's best friend, man. And she had stayed with me before, and I think she was already pissed off at me because I didn't have sex with her and she wanted me to. I did a whole episode on Blue Pill podcast about that, which is my other podcast, which is just kind of just random stories about my life. But yeah, she had like messaged my wife on Facebook. She had never met my wife, doesn't even know my wife, just pretty much cussing her out. But she's like one of the type of people that I don't know, she likes to drink a lot. Like, she's like banged on other people's doors and her neighbors' doors and shit. And she's had the cops called on her. I don't know if she got arrested for it or not, but just crazy shit like that. and she'll get drunk and just angry text people or angry call people. So my wife just blocked her. I don't fool with Facebook, but yeah, this lady had basically went off on my wife and said that it was rude that I had brought someone. Literally, when every Thanksgiving for years, my mom always said if we wanted to bring a friend or something, because a lot of family members do it. We have a lot of family members who have friends who are like lonely and stuff, so they bring them along. That's what holidays are about, Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff. If you got somebody who doesn't know anybody and they're just kind of a lonely person, like, bring them along. There's no one should spend any holiday alone at home. Which, yeah, I guess so. I was just like, man, I don't even really want to go back this year, and thankfully we didn't get invited, so which is cool. Yeah, so that was my Thanksgiving. I spent it at work, and that was my birthday too. So fuck them, dude. I didn't get no happy birthday except from anyone from my wife and my mother-in-law and my eldest brother. So yeah, everybody else could suck my dick. But yeah, I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. Now this update will kind of be a little long because it is paranormal related. I'm going to tell you where I went the past 2 days. Well, the 27th and 28th. But yeah, I actually just finished doing an email. Basically, I got a review did a review on our motel, man. And I'll get to that in a minute. But normally I don't really give reviews and stuff. But man, it was sketchy. I'll get into that. But yeah, so we went back to Point Pleasant. And normally, I mean, you guys know me, the longtime listeners. I don't like to go back to the same place over and over and over again. I guess it's just like maybe from my childhood, and I ain't gonna lie, like, for a family of 6 and my dad being the only worker most of the time, like, they would always buy tickets to like Universal Studios or Busch Gardens like every year. Sometimes like 2 or 3 times a year because they'd get deals and stuff on it. And I mean, yeah, I guess that makes us spoiled, but I don't know. Like, it just got kind of old going to the same place over and over and over again. And it was Florida, but it's like I live in Kentucky now and I work really hard, honestly, for my money. I work overtime almost every week. And I just don't like going to the same place over and over again. And I hear a lot of people here in Kentucky that are like, oh man, there's nothing to do around here. And it's like, dude, there is so much stuff to freaking do around here. But the thing is stuff like hiking and stuff. And most Americans, honestly, are the stereotypical fat and lazy. And they're like, oh wait, you want me to go hiking 5 miles? Like, yeah, but there's a beautiful waterfall at the end of it. Well, I could just Google image it. Well, it's not the same. So we're always doing stuff, but it's different stuff every time. But we went to Point Pleasant last year for my birthday. And we put out a slideshow of like the photos. We went to the Mothman Museum, which was cool. And then we went to the Silver Bridge Memorial, which is, if you know anything about Mothman, that's where he showed up and then the bridge fell, and I think it was like 40 people or something like that died that day. And I think personally it was kind of like an inside job perhaps because Men in Black were sighted at the Silver Bridge before it fell, like a week before, and they were investigating the beams and stuff like that. I actually got from the gift shop this time a Men in Black t-shirt, so it's pretty dope. But yeah, so we did those 2 things the first time we went. And where it's like a 4-hour drive, we had to drive like 4 hours there, and we did the tour, the Mothman Museum tour, and it's pretty cool. You go through, and it's got all all these different artifacts from like the actual articles that were written by Mary Hyre, and basically like props and stuff and different stuff from the movie that was filmed. It's actually really dope, man. Newspaper clippings, just there's original pieces of the beams there. There's original props from the movie. There's original clothing from the movie. It's awesome, man, and it's not too expensive. I think it was like $10 a person or $15, something like that. So we did that last time, and we did the memorial. We went to it, but we wanted to go and check out the TNT site, which is basically, I've covered this in previous episode. I think I titled it Mothman Encounters. I'll leave it in the credits if you're watching on YouTube. You can click on it during the credits and check out all the different Mothman encounters reported by John A. Keel. And the TNT site was where they thought Mothman lived. And the last time we wanted to go check it out, and I'm glad that we didn't, because it would have been like a scavenger hunt just to get there. We would have gotten lost, and we were so tired after a 4-hour drive there, and we didn't rent a motel room, so we're like, I just told her, man, let's just come back another time, maybe next year or something. So this year for my birthday, I was like, hey, let's do some research so we can try to figure out where the TNT site is. Because I remember reading the Mothman Prophecies, and back in the day, back in the 60s, they actually had picnic tables set up in kind of like almost like a roadside like rest area. But it's not there anymore. So you could be able to find it back in the day easily. Now you could still find it, but I would advise against it, because if you're not out there with a tour guide, what we did, it's going to be kind of hard to find, and you get lost. And honestly, the drive there and stuff, if you're not getting a motel room and you're not wanting to dish out the money for a tour, it's just, honestly, I'm glad we didn't go looking for it ourselves. So when we were researching online to find it ourselves, we ended up finding that they do bus tours now. And it's not even really a bus. It's a little tiny van that the owner of the Mothman Museum, he owns like a little tiny van. So we piled in it. We bought the tickets, and it gives you free admission to the museum, which we had already seen. So we still looked around, seen if there was anything new, and there wasn't, but that's cool. I bought a t-shirt. We bought some stuff from the shop. The gift shop is awesome. There's a huge selection. Everybody there is really cool. The tour guide is actually the owner of the museum. And please forgive me, I believe his name was like Jeff or Jim or something. But he's actually really fucking cool. Like, he wrote 2 books on the Mothman. I'm not the richest dude ever, so I didn't buy any of his books, sadly. Otherwise, I would have bought a copy or 2 of the 2 books that he wrote and had them signed and stuff. But I make decent money enough to live on, and enough to have fun once in a while. So, but he was super well informed. He wrote 2 books on Mothman. He grew up in the area, and like, he didn't really get into it too much because while all the stuff was going on, he was a kid. He was like 5 years old or something, so he was too little to even know or even care about everything that was going on. But when he started getting older, he read the Mothman Prophecies because, he grew up in Point Pleasant. He just was like, man, this sounds cool. I want to learn about my hometown. And he started reading it, and he started noticing like some of his neighbors, like literally next door neighbors and stuff, were in the book. And he's like, well, wow, why have they never talked about this? How come I didn't know this? So he went and spoke to some of these people, and some of them wouldn't talk about it. They'd be like, he went up to him, was like, hey, You know, how come you never told me that you seen the Mothman? Like, I just now read the book. I'm learning about it. And they just were like, we don't talk about that. You know, we don't talk about that. A lot of them are like that. A lot of the witnesses just do not talk about it to this day. So, of course, that piqued his interest. He's like, oh, there's got to be something to it. If it terrified these people enough that they don't want to talk about it to this day, like, there's got to be something to it. So that was cool. Like, he was our tour guide. He's an excellent tour guide. He owns like 2 other shops. Like, one's called the 34th Bunker or 344th Bunker, something like that. I can't remember the name of his other shop, but he'd be happy to tell you. He definitely made sure he promoted himself, like, because I was trying to get a t-shirt and they were out of it, and I actually got the last one that was on display in my size, which is a large, of the Man in Black t-shirt I was telling you about. And he had no problem telling you, like, oh, I'm the owner. I have 2 other shops in town. Go check those shops out, which we did. And he's like, are you guys doing the tour? And I'm like, yeah, we're doing the tour. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to be the one doing it. And I'm like, oh, cool. Nice to meet you, you know. He definitely puts himself out there, you know. And he had no problem during the tour definitely repeating that he wrote 2 books. Which, hey, I ain't making fun of him. You know, self-promotion. I get it. But yeah, so we went on the tour, and it was pretty cool. Like, we went down Main Street, and I believe it was on Main Street on the right side of Main Street. Basically, there's a Chief Cornstalk is where he's buried. And if anyone's read the Mothman Prophecies, they don't mention it in the movie, but Chief Cornstalk, it's believed, there's a legend that he actually cursed Point Pleasant, and that's why the Mothman is there. Some believe that Mothman is like a thunderbird. We actually didn't go check it out because I had worked a full shift and then stayed awake for the 4 hours driving up there. We waited around for like an hour, did the tour, which was like 2 hours, and by the time like we were done with everything, we had like an hour before check-in at our motel room. I was so worn out. I was like, you know, it would be cool to go and check out where Chief Cornstalk's buried, but I was like, I was so exhausted, you know. But hey, who knows? I'll probably go back again to go check that out next time. I don't mind going back, you know. But yeah, and then we went to the end of Main Street, and there's like this, it basically goes, the Main Street just goes into the river. Like, there's no turning off point. It's a dead end, and it goes straight into the river. And he told us basically that there was a high-speed chase. Some criminal committed a crime, and he didn't know the town very well, and he literally just drove straight into the river and drowned to death, which was insane. But yeah, he kind of gave us a tour around the town, like a little, probably like 15, 20-minute tour, driving around town, telling us different places to go eat, different shops, stuff like that. And then he's like, all right, I'll take you out to the TNT site, which was cool, you know. We were ready for it. We went down some back roads that are like gravel and tons of potholes, and that was another reason Sammy, even during the trip, she's like, yeah, I'm glad we didn't try to find this ourselves, because she has a Cadillac. She's like, man, I wouldn't have wanted to be driving around in these potholes, and some of the areas out there are still off limits and still top secret. Because he had actually, when he first started these bus tours, he had went in some certain areas, and cops showed up at the museum one day, and they're like, hey, I seen you doing bus tours at such and such area of the TNT site. Don't be doing that. And he thought they were just joking around and messing with him, you know. I don't know if you guys are from small towns, but I know here in Kentucky everybody knows each other, and Point Pleasant, it's still kind of the same way. And he thought the guy was messing with him. He started laughing at him, and the guy said, no, I'm serious. Anyone who steps foot on that ground again will go to jail. And he's like, oh shit. So yeah, he figured out which areas he's allowed to go to. So once we get to like basically the TNT sites, there's these guardrails that are all graffitied up, and you got to step over it, and you got to walk past this like huge pond where there's these underground TNT bunkers inside the water, which is kind of cool. They were hidden. They just kind of look like mounds. Like everyone else could see it, I couldn't see it. I couldn't tell the difference between it and like a little tiny island. But we kept walking through the woods, and at one point it was kind of funny. Like he looked over and he had never seen it before. He's like, "Oh, look at that! Somebody had put 2 red reflectors on 2 different trees, so that way if anyone goes out there at night and shines a flashlight on it, it looks like 2 red Mothman eyes looking back at him." It was like probably like 20 foot within the wood line, you know, which I thought was pretty cool. So then we got to the bunker, and I mean, it was probably like a 20, 25 foot huge, almost like silo looking thing. And on the inside, there's tons of graffiti. Some of it's kind of vulgar, which the tour guide, he was like, "Man, that kind of bums me out, you know, because sometimes I bring kids out here and they're reading it and like, what does this mean, Mom?" Like one of the graffiti said something about "eat ass" or something. I was like, oh God, yeah, that would be awkward. But it's crazy when you get inside, like it echoes insane, like every word. It's hard to even talk to each other. Like he was giving the tour, and it was like all his words were just like reverberating. But yeah, I mean that was pretty much what we did. After that, we were going to go to Chief Cornstalk's grave, but man, it was so cold in West Virginia. Like, I was legit, like, chilled to my freaking bones, like, shivering. And we went out to eat, and I was just dying for sleep, falling asleep while we were eating, ready to just go to bed, and just, where I was so cold, like, it literally was in the core of my bones. Like, I was freezing throughout dinner, and finally got to the motel room. The motel room sucked, dude. It was a Econo Lodge. As soon as we walked in, it was like the floor was dirty, looked like it hadn't been swept. But I was so tired, I kept my jacket on where I was so freezing cold. I turned the heater on, and I just laid down and put on some like paranormal show that was on TV, and just passed the fuck out. But Sammy woke up at one point and she was like, "Hey, do you want anything to eat? Because I'm hungry and we didn't really bring any food, you know." I was like, "Yeah, what's around here?" Because we stayed in Ripley, which is the town next to Point Pleasant. By the way, if you're wanting to stay in Point Pleasant, you're going to have to get a motel room in Ripley. There's no motel rooms in Point Pleasant. But so I was like, yeah, we decided on Arby's. So she tries to get out of the room, and the room is literally like the deadbolt that she locked. Like, we cannot fix the deadbolt. We can't get it open. And come to look at it, man, behind the door, like it was all smashed in where the doorknob would have hit it. I think that the cops kicked in the door and they just never fixed it. We couldn't even find the room when we first got there because the numbers were ripped off the outside of the room. The floor was dirty. I was trying to flip the channels on the TV. You could only go up. You couldn't go down. And I know people are like, "Oh, that's not a big deal." Dude, I don't get cable TV. Like, we don't pay for that shit. So it is kind of a big deal for me to, like, whenever we're staying in a motel, I'm, like, watching TV, man. It's like, I don't get cable. But yeah, man, Econo Lodge, dude. So we got locked in the room. She calls the front desk, and the front desk lady literally has to like kick her way into the room. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, we can change rooms if you don't feel safe." And I was like, "Nah, man, I'm so exhausted. I just want to sleep." That we just stayed in it, but. So yeah, they got a nice review online, definitely. And I'm like I said, I'm not the type to bash on anyone, like, you have to really be grungy or shitty for me to, like, leave a review. But I was checking my email before I do podcast. I always check my emails, and I'm like, oh yeah, I will so review that. Dirty floor, remote doesn't work, holes in the wall, getting locked in our room. Couldn't find the room because the numbers on the outside are ripped off. Like, oh yeah, I have no problem reviewing you all. But yeah, that was our second visit to Point Pleasant. I definitely, we plan on going back. Y'all should check it out, you know. But we got a little bit of time. I'll go ahead and do some current news story that's conspiracy related. It actually deals with the Satanic Temple, so I think you all will be interested, and we'll wrap up the show. And yeah. All right. Let's do some current news. This came out last week. You guys might not have heard. This was brought to my attention by another channel, Call to an Uprising. He's a Christian channel. Now, first of all, I gained 4 subscribers within since my last video, which was, I think, about 4 or 5 days ago, because we went on a trip. I took a little hiatus. So first of all, thank you for subbing on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube and you listen on audio format only, which would most likely be Spotify, go and subscribe to us on YouTube. It's Conspiracy Corner Podcast. The profile picture is a bunny rabbit with a samurai sword. If you are on YouTube, but you would rather, because some people listen to podcasts while they're at work, and to save your battery, you can listen on a Spotify, which the screen blacks out. It saves your battery while you're working. You can listen to it. We're on Anchor, Radio Public, Google Podcast, and Breaker. That being said, this is where I lose subscribers. Today I'm reporting on something that's going on with the Satanic Temple. I thought you guys would be interested. I am actually not a Christian warrior. Just because of my upbringing. I was a punk rock singer. My dad was a preacher. I was never really truly allowed to be who I wanted to be growing up. I wasn't allowed to date certain people, which I got my ass kicked for because, yeah, that's a whole long story. It just kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I am educated when it comes to Christianity. I've read the Bible cover to cover 6 times, so I know what I'm talking about. But, yeah, if you're looking for, like, some super Christian channel, you're not going to really find it here because I don't really have much good things to say about Christianity. That being said, I am the type of person who subscribes to Christian channels. I listen to A Call for an Uprising. I listen to Trey Smith. I listen to Jacob Israel. I listen to Marfugal. I listen to NPC Show. But yeah, for some reason, some people can't handle that you don't have the same religion as them, and they find that a reason to separate from your channel, which is fine by me. The show goes on with or without you. But I do appreciate the new subs. Now, my opinion for the new subs, because I did gain 4 new subscribers, I'll sound like a broken record to the regular listeners, but I'll keep it short and simple. I've actually read quite a bit of the Satanic Bible. I've studied Satanism. There's 2 forms of Satanism, and you won't hear a Satanist say this. You have LaVeyan Satanism, and you have Luciferian Satanism. LaVeyan Satanism, sorry to burst your little bubble, it's not bad. It started with the Church of Satan, created by Anton LaVey. which I plan on doing a whole episode on Anton LaVey's life because it's simply interesting. And where it's part of the occult and where he brushed shoulders with so many of the elites, I think that you guys would find the information useful. Yeah, it's basically atheism. Sorry to burst your bubble. LaVeyan Satanism is basically atheism. I dabbled in it. I never became a full-blown Satanist. I've studied it because I found it interesting, but I've never been the type to literally say there is no God. I actually believe there is a God, which, yeah, that doesn't work out in LaVeyan Satanism very much. That, and they're the type to still practice witchcraft, but they're atheist at the same time, which, wow, my cat's freaking out. Sorry about that. So they don't actually make sense. It kind of contradicts itself because it's like, why do you do satanic witchcraft ceremonies, but you don't believe in magic or God? Well, they believe in magic, but they don't believe that there's a God or a Satan. Like they're atheists that believe in magic. It's fucking weird and it's confusing. They do not hurt children. That's actually one of their 9 tenets. One of their laws is they do not harm children. Now you have Luciferian Satanism, which my dad was a preacher, and then he had a mental breakdown. I think it was honestly midlife crisis, and he became a Luciferian Satanist, which they actually literally believe in a Satan. So the people that the LaVeyan Satanists who try to brush it off as like a satanic panic, there is no such thing as actual Satanist. Not that they're not actually Satanist, but there is actual literal Satanist Luciferians who believe that there is a physical, spiritual Satan, and they will rape children and murder people and murder children and commit as much evil as possible, like in the name of Satan, for Satan. That's the type of person my father was, kind of like Richie Ramirez, you know. So yeah, that being said, with that disclaimer, here's the current news. Satanists will head to Scottsdale for annual convention. It's called SatanCon, and it's going to be in 2022. Satanists from throughout the nation will converge on Old Town Scottsdale, subsequent year for the Satanic Temple's first conference. The transfer comes a year after the temples lost a federal lawsuit towards Scottsdale alleging spiritual discrimination as a result of a member of a Arizona chapter was not allowed to give an invocation at a city council meeting in 2016. Now, actually, I kind of side with the Satanist on that. If you're allowed to pray before a council meeting, why can't you do a satanic prayer at a council meeting? I firmly believe, along with multiple LaVeyan Satanists, that separation of church and state. There should be no prayer in any government building. There should be no 10 commandments at any government building, because if you're going to do only Christian stuff, you need to put all sorts of religious stuff out front too for other religious people. Otherwise, separation of church and state. And I argued with a Christian in a comment section one time, and she's like, this is a Christian country. And I'm like, okay, you're listening to a channel who's a Christian conspiracy channel, and they talk shit about Freemasons. You know that like 95% of the presidents were like Freemasons. And if you read the works of who is it? Albert Pike, he basically says that the big G, is Lucifer. It's almost like Lucifer, not apologist, but I guess almost like Gnostic teachings. Now that could be his personal big G, because I know in Freemasonry you can choose your big G of whatever God you want, kind of like AA. I'm not a Mason, so I could be butchering the whole thing, but I pretty much told this chick, like, America is not a Christian nation, it's a Masonic nation. And they actually, I've read Masonic books, like Hiram Key kind of explains that to people, is that America's not a Christian nation. It's literally the new Atlantis. It's a Masonic experiment. That's how they title it. It's a Masonic experiment. We are not a Christian nation. We are a Masonic nation. It's on the back of your dollar bill. I've covered it 1,000 times about the dollar bills. I've covered how all the presidents were Freemasons. Yeah. Sorry to burst y'all's bubble. It's not a Christian nation. It's a Masonic nation. So, yeah, get over it. And if you don't like it, do something about it. Start a channel. Rebel. I don't know. You do you. I'm just speaking the truth. The temple appealed the ruling. However, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit upheld the lower court's decision this spring. The Metropolis claimed on the time that the group was turned away as a result of it had no vital ties to Scottsdale. But the temple introduced Tuesday on its Instagram page that SatanCon 2022 will happen from February 11th to the 13th. Of course, they'd choose the 13th to end it. On the Saguaro Hotel in Old Town. The submit mentioned the occasion will be devoted to former Scottsdale Mayor Jim Lane and council member Suzanne Clapp, who each left office in January. The temple claimed Lane and Clapp, quote, took pride in depriving the Satanic Temple of their civil liberties by refusing to allow one TST member, so that's the Satanic Temple, member the opportunity to utter a brief solemn message. Yeah, that's honestly the Satanic Temple is different from the Church of Satan. The Church of Satan was originally created by Anton LaVey. The Satanic Temple, they still believe in LaVey's teachings and obviously the religion that LaVey created. There is an awesome documentary on Netflix, and I would actually suggest anyone who is, honestly, if you're a Christian and you think you know what Satanism's about, I would suggest you seriously watch it because you would be surprised. And you would be surprised that the Satanic Temple actually protested alongside with Christians about separation of church and state. Yeah, it's an awesome documentary. It explains exactly what they believe in. It's good to walk a mile in someone else's moccasins. Lane informed the Arizona Republic that he is sorry if the group feels he has achieved them hurt. However, he's glad they will be on the town. It's fine that they will be here, and that's certainly well within everybody's rights, he mentioned. We consider ourselves a very inclusive community. SatanCon will supply lectures and panels introduced by the temple's congregation, in addition to leisure choices and a satanic market. The keynote speaker will be Lucian Greaves. He's the founder of the Satanic Temple. By the way, like the Satanic Temple, they're a religion technically, but they're more of honestly a political movement. And politically, I actually side with most of it. It's a little left-leaning. So if you are a Christian and anti-Satanist, LaVeyan Satanist, hey, just think of this. I bet you they're all going to be jabbed up. And I bet you it's going to be jab mandated. So most of these motherfuckers probably ain't even going to live to 2022. Just saying. The lectures and panels will concentrate on campaigns the temple champions, equivalent to efforts to defend members' reproductive rights, battle psychiatric abuse, defends kids from abuse in facilities, promote dependency recovery, and a temple after-school membership. The convention's theme is Lupercalia in Scottsdale. Lupercalia was a historical pagan competition that occurred in Rome, and historians describe it as a bloody and violent sexually charged celebration, awash with animal sacrifice, random matchmaking, and coupling in the hopes of warding off evil spirits and infertility. Registration info and prices can be found on the temple's website. The website says the group's mission is to encourage benevolence and empathy among all people, reject tyrannical authority, advocate practical common sense, oppose injustice, and undertake noble pursuits. So there you have it, guys. SatanCon 2022. Will you attend? Will you protest? Hey, I'm cool with either one. I just want everyone happy and expressing their American liberties and freedoms. And honestly, you guys have heard, hopefully with a sound and logical mind, my opinion on the matter. I suggest that documentary. Definitely check it out. But there's the news for the current news of what's going to happen next year. It came out 7 days ago, and that was my little trip that I just came back from, my hiatus. And next episode will be a fun episode. Probably I'll do some paranormal, something like that. I'm not sure yet. Maybe some true crime. I don't know. But you all have a good day. Stay tuned, and I'll catch you all later.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, would interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.